Good afternoon. Welcome to Zambian Voices, our weekly online series of conversations with Zambian leaders making a difference in their communities and in this wonderful country of Zambia. Over the past months, it has been my pleasure to speak to these changemakers to share information and insights on a wide range of themes, including education, health, entrepreneurship, democracy, human rights, and governance initiatives. Today, I'm honored to have on the show Chaka, Nyathando, who many of you know by the name of the musician Pompi, to talk about his musical journey, his experience in the United States on the prestigious International Visitor Leadership Program, and how he's making a difference here in Zambia. Pompi, it's a pleasure to have you join us today.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Thank you for the invitation.
Great. Well, I wonder if you could tell us about how you started your musical career doing what many would call secular music, and what inspired you to change to gospel music?
So I think it was because of the obviously when I converted to Christianity, I understood that there is a message, there is a framework which we are supposed to live our lives in order for us to live an abundant life. So when I got born again, I felt that with my music, I need to create music that also is aligned with my belief. And basically that I should act out everything that I'm singing about. I shouldn't sing anything that is not authentic to what I believe in. So yeah, that's how I started that journey, and it worked very well for me. Yeah, and I'm blessed. But I think also I saw how powerful music is at molding culture, and I felt that obviously the Bible, if you would put it that way, is a culture, or it promotes a culture, and that's a culture of love, which I believe is the best foundational culture to build any nation. So I believe it's an amazing foundation to build a nation on, and that's a message that I spread now with my music and the culture that I try to live.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, I think, we often talk about how important it is to walk your talk, and I think you walk your singing. You integrate it together.
Thank you. Thanks.
I think, can you tell us a little bit about a number of years ago, you went to the United States to participate in one of our international visitor leadership programs, and it was about hip hop and civic engagement. So what were some of the highlights of your experience, and how did it contribute to your work as a musician and as a citizen?
It really helped me a lot in creating a framework in my mind of how media works, how media and the people, and how art and all these different expressions are powerful at molding, a people, and also how they can be used to speak for people maybe who are minorities or voices that have been ignored. I think is also very, very powerful. So we obviously, on the trip, one of the things that I really loved was how we were taken to basically different states and different cities, and got to see civil engagement done by different groups of people around different subjects. So like the Hispanic, group that we went for, that basically in the Hispanic community, they produce music. They had a hall where they would do dance routines, and they had a studio that was available for free, and basically all this to know that that foundation in creating culture through art with the youth can influence the youth in a very positive way to get away from drugs, to get away from different destructive mindsets. So it was definitely amazing to see that kind of work being done at a grassroots level, and and actually seeing it in practice, and that it works. So I brought a lot of knowledge back with me, and I guess it's part of the foundation that I've built my career on. So definitely very influential in my life. Yeah.
Fantastic. I know, as you say, that art can influence culture and vice versa in different ways. I wonder if you could say a little bit more about art and culture here in Zambia, and how do you see that interacting?
Um, I guess I feel the relationship with art and the people of Zambia and Zambia as a whole, I think is, I think art, I feel there is room for it to be seen and to be valued a bit more. One thing that I'm constantly talking about is intellectual property and the protection of intellectual property, and how basically as an industry, it's quite difficult to sustain a living if intellectual property is not respected. So yeah, it's it's been a learning process, and I think um, we, through even the program, like I'm saying, I get back to it, I really see how these problems, they can start from just a voice and speaking and saying and highlighting that this area needs to be looked at a bit more critically. I think democracies thrive on civil engagement. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important for citizens to participate in democracy, right? Sometimes we
Definitely.
just think a democracy is about voting, every 4 years, but it's a lot more than that, because it really is
Definitely.
the people rule and the people participate from the roots of the word, participating in their civic engagement. Some of
Yes.
the programs that these U.S. exchange programs focus on are on leadership and civic participation. Why do you think it's important for young people in Zambia to take on leadership roles in their communities and in their country?
I think because they all bring a fresh perspective to, I believe innovation, if innovation is going to be embraced, the youth have to be embraced, because I believe the youth are at the front. They lack the experience, but what they lack in experience, they have in innovation or creativity. So I believe definitely the youth um, and engaging with them and engaging with, yeah, is definitely very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's great. It's music's often been seen as a social force for good in the world in terms of positive social change. How do you see
Yeah.
that playing out in Zambia?
I think we're still in a very good place. Why I say so is in Zambia, as a gospel artist, and obviously as an artist who has a culture affiliated to, the music, or a belief system attached to the music. But I feel that the music in Zambia is still at a place where, as a gospel artist, I can be in the mainstream. So in some societies, that can't happen, because basically, in the mainstream, it's really kept for more. The minority voices may not be represented, but here, because we're a Christian nation, a lot of the times the gospel is given a good platform. So, and even I think in regards to the positive culture and the influence of musicians in the culture, I believe we can make improvements at actually maybe directing uh, maybe our fans to things like, for example, voting, things like just speaking for the voiceless. I think on that front, I think a lot of artists, including myself, can do a lot of work a bit better at amplifying the voice of the weak. Yeah.
Here, and you mentioned about speaking for the voiceless and using, your platform as an artist and as a civic leader. How do you, who, how do you try to articulate, and who do you feel that in Zambia, the people who need a voice, who don't have it? What's your sense of calling for who are the voiceless here in Zambia that need to be spoken for?
I would say there are a lot of groups. They are there are a lot of subjects I would say that I feel need, like for example, one being, I think a very good example is the Vespa situation. Um, you know, um, the people really made that, reminded, um, I feel, even our leadership, and continues to remind our leadership how it's very important that we get uh, to getting an understanding, or that work is being done to solve this case. So I believe that even my contribution, in a small way, I did tweet about Vespas, that look, I feel this case should be respected. It's a life that was taken. It needs to be respected. So I would say in those instances, and in instances where I feel, because of the offense that sometimes direct political statements can make, I chose a path of spreading this gospel, which I believe is a culture that, in giving people understanding of, for example, what leadership means through this book, this text, which being the Bible, if that leadership can be taught. I always give an example of Kings. The book of Kings actually takes you through different types of leaders and the consequences of their leadership styles. Let's say if they were not a listening leader, we have examples of that. We have examples of kings like Ahab, who obviously did things that are very undemocratic, So I believe that I use the approach of communicating the power of this culture and this way of living, and that will eventually reflect in regards to people making decisions on who they need to pick as leaders, or basically to encourage them to have also a lot of critical thinking. So I really feel that that's the approach I choose, because sometimes when you go directly at issues, there's a lot of offense sometimes that is taken, which I feel may not necessarily be progressive, if I would put it that way. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the concept of servant leadership is so important, whether we acquire that from faith or from other aspects from society, but trying to be a servant and to show compassion and, to reach out to help others, I think is so important. And that's one of the things that resonates with me too. One of the things that we deal with today, of course, is the world has changed so much because of COVID-19. And the fact that we're talking virtually today rather than in person just typifies that, right? I know you were one of the wonderful Zambian artists who joined us in the Freedom Concert that we had back on July 4th, where you joined virtually as part of that. I wonder if you could just say something, Pompi, about how are you finding it as an artist and as a citizen? How are you dealing with, working through your art in this time of COVID?
Working through my art during this time of COVID has, I would say, a lot of expressions of the art, or a lot of platforms we had to express the art, obviously, specifically shows, which was a large part of our, if I would put it, income, or, it was the platform where we connected with the people. So that obviously was a very big one that had to go because obviously of COVID. So the direction has changed so much to now creating more digital experiences rather than ones that are, and that's why it was amazing to be part of the concert, of the Freedom concert, because it was basically a true example of that. Something that I've been to one at the embassy, fortunately been invited to one at the embassy, and that's obviously a physical event. It was a very beautiful event, but now we were able to execute the same thing on a digital platform. And yeah, I think us adapting is just necessary. So even obviously us as artists, I believe we are also adjusting and to the situation. I mean, we have to. So
Yeah, that's true. Well, we really appreciate you joining us. We should do it again. It was very exciting to use a digital platform like that, like you say.
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been an amazing conversation. Yeah, we should definitely do it again anytime.
Well, let me, do you have any last words for us and kind of for our audience of things you'd like to leave with folks as they've listened today?
I think it's a message that I really love so much. But basically, that the greatest among us are servants.
Mm.
Yeah, quoting Martin Luther King, the greatest amongst us are servants. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, thank
Yeah.
you for being a servant and using your
Thank you.
music to steer people to higher purposes and higher callings. I admire that very much, and I appreciate that about you, Pompi. So
Thank you
it's
so much.
with you today, and keep up the good work and be safe. And for all
Will
of
do.
our viewers who've joined us today, be safe, be careful. Even though schools are opening and other entertainment places have opened, we just need to remember that COVID is real, and we need to keep wearing our mask when we're around each other to be safe. And that's really loving our neighbor, isn't it? And that's a key thing.
Definitely. Yes.
So thanks for joining us, Pompey, and appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you. God bless.